All right, so we have Lionel Messi's home MLS debut. This is the 10th match for Messi with Inter Miami, only the second MLS game and the first MLS home game tonight at Drive Pink Stadium. And joining us here, you see him on ESPN, ESPN FC, you see him on SportsCenter, Luis Miguel Echegaray joining us here as we have Messi Mania in South Florida. And I wanted to get you on the show here, Luis, because you are, every time I see you on television, you're just as excited as all of us over Messi being here. So first, when you started to get wind of the possibility of Messi joining Inter Miami MLS, did you think it was real?
First of all, thank you so much for having me here, Jonathan. And as you mentioned, I apologize to everybody watching SportsCenter. You have to see my ugly mug almost every day now talking about Lionel Messi. But as you said, how could you not? This is the most significant arrival, in my opinion, to American sports ever. Ever. Okay? Yes, we can have a discussion about other athletes. And remember what I just said, an arrival to the US, of course, Michael Jordan and all that stuff. That's, within the domestic ingrained culture of the US. But to me, Jonathan, Messi arriving to MLS is gigantic in so many reasons. And to answer your question, it was an interesting narrative. And it's been one for many, many months, actually, that goes all the way back to last year. And if you talk to Jorge Mas, the Inter Miami owner, it's actually a conversation that began in 2020, the possibility of Messi arriving to Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and of course, MLS. And, part of the reason was reality. Barcelona were very interested in getting him back. Obviously, for financial limitations, it couldn't happen. And his heart has always been with Barcelona as well as the club that essentially nurtured him. And obviously the Saudi Arabian money coming in from Al Hilal. But there's a very important person, Jonathan, that needs to be reminded in this story. And that's Antonella Roccuzzo, his wife. Because when the Saudi Arabian money came in, my friend, Messi and his team were obviously pondering about it. And Antonella was like, you can go to hell if you think we're going to do that. Wow. I'm going to take my kids to a culture that we didn't know. Paris at PSG wasn't a good time. He told me that himself. So when the Miami presentation came, which was already a buildup for many years, as I mentioned, then it became a reality. And Miami, South Florida, as you know, Fort Lauderdale is the perfect place for him. It's the Latin American capital of the world. He's happy. He's joyful. His family is all over it. And you can just see it on the pitch, right? It's been a tremendous journey. And like you said, it's his MLS debut today, at home. There's still so much more to write about. So it's very, very exciting for sure.
What was the relationship like with Beckham? I mean, did they know each other well? What was that?
Yeah, their relationship has been there for a long time, partly because of obviously they both represent the same brands, Adidas being one of them, of course. So they've known each other for a while. There's obviously the PSG connection. David Beckham as well played for PSG. Messi played there, and then Beckham came over there to visit and say hello. This was before even an official statement was said about him coming to Miami. But they've been friends for a long time. Obviously, the biggest names in the game in one way or another are going to be familiar with each other, and Beckham and Messi are no different, despite the fact that Messi's English is limited and so is Beckham's, et cetera, et cetera. It's still a mutual amount of respect. But from a business perspective, once David Beckham came into, this very long but productive trek journey into making Inter Miami a reality alongside Jorge Mas and his brother, that's when things really began to take place. And even though Beckham had not really much involvement in terms of trying to get him to Miami, really this was driven by Jorge Mas, they still built a personal relationship. But Beckham was very careful in making sure that he wasn't going to step on any toes. But now, forget about it. They're best friends, right? They go over to Gecko, right? Bad Bunny's and David Grutman's restaurant. Sergio Busquets and his wife. He's having the time of his life. Beckham is really enjoying what's happening. And of course, we don't even have to get into it too much, but you can see the economical, uplift that has happened ever since he came to Inter Miami.
Luis, how about the stress level for a guy like Messi, for his family, wherever they play, be it PSG, be it Barcelona, when he's at home in Argentina, whenever he's on the streets, whenever he goes out, he definitely gets mobbed. So It's funny because when he first got here, there was a video that went viral where fans were taking pictures in some video. They caught him at a Publix, which is our supermarket down here. And it was like, oh my God, I'm looking at the videos. Oh my God, can you imagine Messi he's shopping at Publix? That's crazy. But here's the thing. Yes, there were a few people going up and taking pictures, but he probably hasn't been able to shop at the local supermarket like that with his family in God knows how long. So he'd get mobbed. So there's probably less stress down here, right? Where, yes, people are going to take some pictures, but he can live a little bit. Right? Am I thinking about that properly?
Absolutely, 100%. The first story that I wrote, Jonathan, was didn't even have Messi or anybody of his team or anybody involved in it. It was about, the first piece I did once it was official was to create an Anthony Bourdain-ish story about the city of Miami, the area of Fort Lauderdale, South Florida in itself, and how they would receive Messi and what it means to them and vice versa. It was about trying to understand the community. So to your point, the reason why it fits so well is because, of course, Lionel Messi, there is nobody like him. But Miami is no stranger to superstars or celebrities or this kind of, larger than life personality arrivals. Messi is the biggest of them all, no doubt. And because of the Argentinian community being the biggest one in the US, it's going to be very, very attractive to him. The Publix one, I love it. There's a little pinch of salt there because Publix is a sponsor of Inter Miami. So I feel there was like kind of an agreement of the two. But he did go to mini Buenos Aires, right, in North Beach. And when he get out of the restaurant, there was a mob there as well. This is nothing new to him. When he won the World Cup and he went to Buenos Aires and he went again to another restaurant, there were thousands of people outside. The same thing would happen in Barcelona. Paris, not so much, but it still happened. So he's used to this. The reason why it fits so well with Miami is because, A, as I mentioned, this is a city that's had the likes of LeBron James, Dwayne Wade. It's understood the celebrity status, culture, all that stuff. Of course, Messi's going to continue to get mobbed. There's nothing like him, but Miami's better equipped for it. And so is Messi himself. Now, this is the key part. And this is something that I take very personally. I'm a Latin American that left Peru and Peruvian when I was a kid, moved to Europe, then the US. So it's very difficult sometimes for a Latin American to go somewhere where it's completely different, a different culture, and acclimate. Messi, this is the first time where he's living somewhere that's the closest to being in Latin America again, because that's Miami. Barcelona, of course, it was his home from the age of 11, 12 years old, but it's still not the same, right? Paris, absolutely not. Miami is really a place where he can be himself. He doesn't have to speak English. He can really enjoy everything that he truly savors as a player, as a human being. And I asked him, when I talked to him, I said, you have never been this happier. I swear to God. And he said, yeah, I haven't. I'm so happy because my family's happy because of all the reasons I just said. And Miami is a perfect place for it.
It's really exciting. Granted, they've had a few home games because of Leagues Cup. I think maybe 4 of the Leagues Cup games that they played in were here at Dry Pink Stadium. Tonight, of course, very important. It's the first MLS home game. And they really need to win the grand majority of these games to make the postseason. But so it's going to be a great atmosphere tonight. But the thing that really stood out to me, Luis, you were able to tell in the Leagues Cup games, and especially in the Leagues Cup final, he's not just here to retire. He's not just here to be here, collect money, live in South Florida. He's into these matches. He cares. And for a fan to watch that, we care. And if Lionel Messi, who's won 45 trophies, he just won a World Cup, if he cares like this about the brand new Leagues Cup championship, that's awesome to watch.
It's the reason why, Jonathan, to me, he's the greatest player that has ever lived. I have no arguments. I don't want to talk and discuss about it with anybody. To me, that's just a fact. He is the greatest player the game has ever seen. And one of those reasons, aside from the magical things that he does on the pitch, is because of what you just said. He fights and competes in everything. When I was there at the Leagues Cup final, and it was going straight, or was it? Excuse me. It was the US Open Cup semifinal against Cincinnati. and he finished the 90 minutes and they went to extra time. At the end of extra time, Lionel Messi fell to his knees and he was exhausted because he gave everything. At 36 years old, it doesn't matter. He's here to win. He's here to fight. It's who he's always been ever since he stepped on the academy at Rosario, Argentina, with News Old Boys, to all the way to Barcelona, the Champions League, the World Cup, Inter Miami. It doesn't matter. He's going to continue to fight because he wants trophies and he wants to help this team succeed. Now, we'll get into it, I'm sure, in a second, but the MLS playoffs will be a pretty big mountain because all the damage was already done before he arrived. But come on now, they already have a Leagues Cup trophy. They're in the final of the US Open Cup. They've gone from the worst team in MLS to arguably the best. It's amazing.
Can you explain to my listeners, to most likely to my American listeners who are just starting to love soccer and get involved in soccer, who maybe don't understand how this goes, where, I remember these videos out there where parents were taking videos when Messi officially was announced that he's joining Inter Miami. And obviously we have a huge Latin community down here. And the parents their kids were coming home from school that day and they're recording and they want to get it on record telling their kid, and the family's likely Argentinian, and they're telling their kid, Messi signed with Inter Miami, so you're going to get to see him in person now. And these kids, they're immediately hysterical, crying, like they can't believe it. Can you just try and explain to those listeners that I have who don't understand? I mean, look, LeBron James signed here with the Heat. Kids weren't crying that they get to see LeBron in person,
Right.
But there's this reaction to, oh my God, Messi. Can you try and put that into words?
It's going to be difficult, but I'm going to try. First of all, anybody that's, like you said, entering this sport of ours, welcome. Welcome to the greatest game. Welcome to the most beautiful sport the world has ever seen. Soccer is absolutely, and it's part of the answer to your question, it's a global attraction everywhere. Every single country in one way or another understands the magnitude, not just of the sport, but of Lionel Messi. He is that big. And there's a few reasons. Number one, again, the global attraction thing. When Messi does something, it is felt throughout the entire globe. There are areas in Bangladesh and Southern Asia where literally they have towns dedicated to Lionel Messi. So when Argentina won the World Cup, you can find videos, viral videos on YouTube or on social media, seeing thousands of Bangladeshis wearing Messi shirts and celebrating. This is the effect that this man has, and he's had it forever. Part of the other reason, by the way, and I think this is why he suits the US culture, he is the ultimate underdog. This is a person that needed growth hormones to be a professional. They weren't going to give him a light of day. Barcelona scouts came to Argentina and they said, we'll give him a shot, but he needs growth hormones because he's so small. So he's always had to fight beyond what people think he could do. And then what he does on the pitch is just mesmerizing. This is a man who's 5'6", 5'7", who makes guys who are 6'3", 6'2" look like children. And he's done it throughout his entire career. Finally, after winning the World Cup, Copa America, the Champions League, La Liga, there is so much more than just the trophies. And that's what makes him so huge. When you look at Inter Miami and their Instagram account before Messi arrived, it was a certain number, around 1.2 million. Messi arrives and he's quadrupled that number and it continues to grow. The only two teams in US sports that have more Instagram followers are now the Golden State Warriors and the Lakers. Everybody else is behind Inter Miami, which is amazing. So the answer to your question is Messi represents the global game. And because he's the greatest there has ever been, he now has this world-like appeal. And he's an introvert, which makes him even better. He's not this guy that pumps his chest, look at me, look at me. He's very quiet. He's very about his family. It's just that when he goes on the pitch, he turns into something else. It's amazing.
That's a little bit of a reference, Luis, to Cristiano Ronaldo there, yes? Right?
I didn't say that. Listen, my very good friends here at ESPN, including K. Murray, make fun of me because they say that I'm a Messi loyalist and I'm not specifically a fan of Ronaldo. I'll just tell you what they say in Spanish, okay? Mm-hmm. They say, Ronaldo es el mejor del mundo, pero Messi es de otro planeta. Ronaldo may be the best in the world, but Messi is from another planet. Yeah. And that to me has Ronaldo is an Adonis. He's an athletic freak, and he will always be that. He is aesthetically a fantastic player to watch, and there is no denying that he's a winner. But to me, Messi, what he does at his height, right? The fact that, the things that he creates on the pitch, they're not meant to make sense, Jonathan. He's not meant to be this good. And he's done it forever. And the fact that now he's a World Cup champion makes it even bigger.
Well, and I can't believe, he scored a goal in the 87th minute, the last game this past weekend, and they won 2-0. But forget the goal. The goal was easy. The pass he made,
my God.
where he got, it was unbelievable. And then he gets the pass back from Kramaski, who played locally here in Weston, very close to me, who grew up loving Lionel Messi, and now he's making passes, and Messi's jumping into his arms at 19 years old to celebrate the goal. It's unbelievable. What is the balance? This is obviously a conversation now. Messi, MLS. What's the balance there? His greatness and the talent level in MLS. So all the success that he's had so far, every game he's played except for the opener against Cruz Azul has been against MLS teams, and have been against upper echelon MLS teams. So what's the balance with his greatness and the competition in MLS?
I think that MLS needs three things to keep growing. I'm somebody that's reported on the league for many, many years before ESPN. I was with CBS, before that Sports Illustrated. So I've taken a long time in my career to cover this league. And there are so many great things to discuss about it. It needs always three things to be great. One, absolutely, get those superstars in. There is nobody bigger than Messi. So you've already got that win. But the other two are things that they need to take care of themselves. The second one is making sure that they continue to develop their own domestic-based talent. FC Dallas, for example, has an incredible academy, right? The likes of Weston McKennie, Ricardo Pepi, Jesus Ferreira, all players that have played for the United States men's national team. You need to continue to grow the foundation of the league. Young domestic-based players, whether they're Mexican-American, American, whatever it is, right? The third part is to make sure that you become a transactional league, where Europe is now looking at the MLS to buy players. So, for example, Tata Martino, the head coach of Inter Miami, when he first joined MLS, he coached Atlanta United, who just joined the team. 2 years later, they won MLS Cup. And it was formed around one player, Miguel Almiron, who now plays in the Premier League. He was undiscovered. He was discovered in South America. So my point is, those three factors, right? Get the superstars like Messi, increase the level of talent in domestic-based players, and make sure that you become a league where Europe, Premier League, La Liga, start thinking, ooh, there's some great talent here that we can discover as well. So to answer your question, when I asked Messi, I said, how big can the MLS get? Can it get to the heights of Europe? And he said, it's up to MLS itself. And I agree, based on these three factors. Right now, Messi is doing to MLS what he's done all his career, to anybody. So you can't just be like, oh, it's MLS. He's done it to everybody. Just look at the highlights at the World Cup. Look at the highlights of La Liga. So he's done it to everybody. However, I do think that I had this thought when they faced Atlanta United, which was the second game they played. And Atlanta United looked terrible.
They killed them.
Like, they absolutely destroyed them. And I was like, amazed at this. One, because Atlanta United are not that bad. Two, they have their own Argentinian in Thiago Almada, who I believe is great. He was terrible that day, right? So I got to thinking the same thing with Charlotte FC as well. When they played Charlotte, they looked awful, right? I think FC Dallas gave them a game, and Nashville gave them a game, but the majority, Orlando City as well, that just really fell, right? So I think that sometimes, Jonathan, there's a psychological thing here, where when you're the opponent and you see Messi on the other side, you have two options. You either say, this is Messi, and I'm going to face up to Messi. I'm going to do whatever I can. Or I'm going to fall flat, and I'm just going to like bow down to greatness. And I feel like that's kind of what happened at the beginning to these teams. I don't think that's going to happen the more he plays in these games in MLS. So, for example, Messi has to visit LAFC this weekend in LA. That's going to be some game. They have to travel to Atlanta United after the World Cup qualifiers. I think Atlanta United are going to say, we're not going to let you do what you did to us back then. So I think there's that sort of like familiarity with Messi, right? Trying to make sure that we understand who he is. But with all that being said, Messi is the best player in the league by a mile, but he's always been the best player by a mile anywhere. I mean, the argument would be Kylian Mbappe when he's with PSG. So, but all the fundamentals are there, Jonathan, for this league to continue to grow. It can't just be about Messi, but having Messi is a wonderful golden cherry on the top.
Yeah, it's so much fun. Luis Miguel Echegaray, you could obviously see him ESPN, ESPN FC, Sports Center. Tell everybody everything you got going on right now, how they could see you, how they could read you.
Oh, man, thanks so much. Well, I've been covering Lionel Messi all summer like a crazy ex-girlfriend. So like that continues, continued coverage on Sports Center. You can also find me on ESPN Deportes. I'm on X now. It's not Twitter, I guess, anymore. LM Echegaray. And of course, Instagram, Luis M. Echegaray. But you can find me on ESPN FC. We do weekly shows where we preview the week, the Premier League, Messi, MLS, and much more. So just Google my name. If you know how to spell my last name, you'll find me everywhere. It can't be that bad.
And also, you know, because we're South Florida based, obviously, Luis was on the ESPN Daily podcast with our pal Israel a few days ago. So you can go check that out. So obviously, that was awesome. Great job, Luis. I appreciate you spending some time with us today. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Have a great time tonight.